show you how easy it is to develop new applications with Oracle Visual Builder. We're going to create a demo application that manages information about employees. We're going to choose a template for our application. In this case, we're choosing a template for a web application. When you create applications in Oracle Visual Builder, you can create web or mobile application. The data for your application can come from business objects that you create and store data in the cloud, or from REST services that can get data from any other application. In addition, you can add additional artifacts to your application, including any UI component that was developed to comply with the Web Component standard, as well as processes developed with the Oracle Process Cloud. Let's start by designing our web application. We'll start by opening our web page in our Visual Editor. We can maximize the editing area, which will allow us to then click on items in our page and modify them through our property inspector. On the left side, we have a set of UI components that can be used to design our page. Those are all based on the Oracle Jet open source UI components. In this case, we'll pick up a panel component, which is a layout component. We're going to resize it and open another component right next to it. Then we're going to pick up some data visualization component, such as a donut chart component. And again, we can resize it directly here. And let's now pick up a table component. Put it on the left side. Now that the components and the UI are on the page, we want to bind them to data. To do that, we're going to need some data source. We'll start by creating some business object. You can create business object one by one over here, or you can take some shortcuts. For example, you can use our data manager to load data directly from Excel spreadsheet. In this case, we pick up an Excel spreadsheet and load it into Visual Builder. Visual Builder understands the structure of the spreadsheet, identify the different sheets and the different columns in each one of the sheets, and create corresponding business object for us. In addition, it takes the data from the spreadsheet and loads it into an Oracle database in the cloud. We can now have access to each one of the components to fully customize it. For example, we can add additional fields. Let's add a department field, which will connect our employee to the department object. We can also add a manager field. That can be a Boolean field. Let's modify the department object and add a field that would display the total salary for each department. This would be a numeric field, and it is going to be based on an aggregation that will go over the employees and use the total function to summarize the total of this salary. Now we can go back into our web page and connect our UI components to the business objects. In this case, we'll hook up the table to the employee object and we'll select the specific fields we want to display in the table. In this case, we can also indicate which UI component would represent each one of the fields. When we click Finish, our UI is accessing our business object and is going to show us the data in a live preview so we can better understand the structure of our page. We'll use a similar approach to connect our chart to our employee data. In this case, we're going to show for each employee what their salary is in the chart. And we have the data now represented over here. We can further refine the look and feel of the chart directly using the properties, including, for example, adding animation. Let's add another page to our application. We want to be able to edit the details of an employee, and we can use the quick start to create an edit page that will allow us to edit the data about an employee. We're going to pick up the fields that we want to show here and click Finish to create the page. We can switch our editor to a live preview, which will allow us to then click on an employee and click on Edit to navigate to the new page we just created. Here we can see the data about an employee, and we can update the data for this employee. We can further refine the look and feel of this page, again using the visual editor. In this case, we're going to use the form layout to move the field a little bit to the right, add another UI component to show us an image of the employee, and we'll hook it to the variable that represents the employee and to a specific field here. Now we can remove the additional picture field, and we can also indicate that we want to show 2 columns of data in our application like that. Our data right now is coming from our business object, but Visual Builder also allows you to get data from REST services. You can get services from our catalog of Oracle SaaS services and Oracle Integration Cloud services. You can use services that are defined using the Swagger specification, or in our case we're just going to use a random URL to a REST service that returns a list of countries. For each service you can define the name, security aspects such as the authentication mechanism to access it, parameters, and you can also test the REST service to get the results and see that they match what you expect. Once you added the REST service to your application, you can use it in your user interface. For example, if we'll go to this page, we can now add another UI component. In this case, we'll use a select one choice and add it over here. And we're going to change the title to say country. And then hook the drop-down list to a list of options coming from our REST service. We'll use the alpha as the value, and we'll use the name of the country as the label. If we switch to live mode now, we can see the list of countries here. Further, we can connect those 2 fields together. To do that, we're going to take the country field here and set it to use the same data source as the other field. If we switch to live mode now, you can see that when we change the country here, it's going to reflect over here. We can also assign this employee to a different department, indicate that he's a manager, and even raise his salary. When we save the data, it is saved into the database and will be reflected in our table on the main page. So far we've seen how you design the UI and get data. Now let's see how Visual Builder also simplifies the way that you define business logic. In this case, we're going to switch the business logic that is invoked when we click on a table. Right now we need to select an employee and then click the Edit button. We can simplify this process by modifying the event of the selection of a record, which currently picks up the employee ID, and add more steps to it. On the left side you have a set of predefined steps, including logic steps, as well as invoking of REST services and JavaScript method that you can add to diagram your business logic. In our case, we're going to do a navigate operation to the edit page. The edit page requires an input parameter, which is the employee ID. We can pick up the source of the value and put it into the destination parameter visually. Now we can remove the extra button. So far we've seen how the development is done in a visual way. It's important to indicate that you can also access the code in Visual Builder. As you can see here, you have the HTML code for your page and you can modify it. The code editor in Visual Builder is a smart code editor, allowing you, among other things, to get code insight into the documentation, code highlighting, and help selecting values for fields. With this change, we managed to change the look and feel of our table. Once we are done developing the application, we can hit the Run button to open it in a new browser and test the application. We can see the data about our employees. We can click on an employee to go and edit her data in this case, raise their salary, connect them to a different country and a different department, and save the data. Data is now reflected in our chart. Furthermore, our application has a responsive look and feel. If we resize the application, we'll be able to see the responsive behavior of our UI. This is how simple it is to build applications and publish them with Oracle Visual Builder.